Have you ever had that moment where you're chatting with someone at work or school and you say, "So, when's your birthday?" And they hit you with, "Oh, I don't really celebrate." And suddenly you don't know what to do with your face. Because in your brain, birthdays live in this category with oxygen and Wi-Fi, basic human requirements. Maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're the person who starts thinking about your birthday 2 months in advance, like it's the Olympics. Or maybe you're the one who doesn't care, but still quietly checks who remembered. No judgment. Your brain is a complicated little raccoon. It likes shiny social signals. But the "I don't celebrate birthdays" person, they fascinate people. Are they sad? Are they mysterious? Are they secretly 500 years old like a vampire trying to blend in? Or are they just normal, and we've all collectively decided that a yearly celebration of existing is mandatory? Let me show you what's actually going on psychologically, because the reality is way more interesting than the assumption. People who don't celebrate birthdays aren't one type of person. They are often responding to meaning, memory, identity, culture, and sometimes pain. And once you see the machinery behind it, you stop taking it personally and start understanding the human brain a little better. Picture a birthday party. The classic kind. Cake, candles, everyone singing that song that somehow survives every generation despite being objectively a little ominous. Happy birthday to you. It's like a chant. And for most people, birthdays aren't really about the cake. They're about being witnessed. It's the one day where the world is supposed to stop and say, you matter. We're glad you're here. So when someone doesn't celebrate, our brains do this quick emotional math. Wait, you don't want to be witnessed. Which sounds like rejection, or sadness, or a red flag. But the brain loves shortcuts. It loves clean stories. And they don't celebrate because they are lonely is a clean story. It's also often wrong. Sometimes it's not that they don't want to be seen. It's that they don't want to be performed. Because birthdays, in a lot of modern life, aren't just a moment. They are production. You're not just turning 29. You're curating 29. You're expected to want specific things, react in specific ways, post a specific photo, receive specific attention, and show gratitude with the correct facial expression at the correct volume. It can start to feel less like a celebration and more like being the main character in a play you didn't audition for. And if you're someone who feels overwhelmed by attention, birthdays can be an annual spotlight you never asked for. Psychologically, that's often tied to something simple, arousal level. Some people are sensation seekers. They want fireworks and surprise parties and a weekend trip and a birthday month. Other people have a lower threshold for stimulation. Their nervous system is like, actually, I would like to celebrate quietly by not being perceived. This isn't necessarily social anxiety, though it can just be temperament. Introversion isn't, I hate people. It's more like your brain spends social energy faster than other brains do. So a birthday, where the entire day is socially loaded, can feel like being forced to run a marathon while everyone chants your name. Sweet, but exhausting. Now are the social expectations. There's this unspoken rule that on your birthday you're supposed to feel a certain way. Grateful, happy, special. And if you don't feel those things, you start feeling guilty for not feeling those things, which is a very human, very annoying spiral. This is where birthdays can collide with identity. A birthday is a time marker. It's a number that says, this is how much time has passed. For some people, that's exciting. For others, that number stays up a deep, quiet inventory. Am I where I thought I'd be? Did I do what I said I'd do? Is my life matching the story I had in my head? And if the answer is not really, birthdays can feel less like a party and more like a performance review you didn't schedule. There's research showing that certain ages, like milestone birthdays, can trigger what psychologists call temporal landmarks. These are moments that make us reflect on the self across time. New Year's does it. Graduations do it. Birthdays do it hard. They make your brain compare past me, current me, and future me. If those versions feel disconnected, birthdays can create discomfort. And your brain, being your brain, will try to solve discomfort by avoiding the trigger. So sometimes I don't celebrate doesn't mean I don't enjoy joy. It means I don't enjoy that specific kind of self-audit. But let's go deeper, because sometimes it's not about personality or reflection. Sometimes it's about memory. Birthdays are sticky. They attach to experiences. If you had warm birthdays, people showed up, you felt safe, you felt loved, then your brain filed birthdays under connection. If you had chaotic birthdays, disappointing birthdays, forgotten birthdays, birthdays where the adult were fighting, birthdays where someone got too drunk, birthdays where you were promised something that never happened, your brain filed birthdays under danger or letdown. And what does the brain do with danger? It tries to prevent it. There's a reason certain smells or songs can throw you back into a memory like a time machine. Birthdays can do that too, because they are predictable. They return every year. They're like a calendar-shaped ghost. For some people, not celebrating is not a statement. It's a protection. It's emotional hygiene. It's saying, I know what this day brings up in me, and I'd rather treat it like a normal Tuesday than open that drawer of feelings. And I want to pause here, because if that's you, you're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You're not dramatic. You're adapting. Sometimes the day itself is tied to grief. Maybe a loved one died around your birthday. Maybe your birthday reminds you of someone who should be there and isn't. Or maybe, even more quietly, your birthday reminds you of times you didn't feel safe in your own life. In psychology, we often talk about triggers like they're always loud and obvious, but a trigger can be a cake, a phone notification, a happy birthday text, something benign that unlocks a whole internal room. Now, there's another angle people don't talk about as much: culture and belief. In some families, birthdays simply weren't a thing, or they were seen as unnecessary, indulgent, or even morally wrong. Some religious traditions discourage birthday celebrations. Some cultures celebrate different milestones more than individual birthdays. Some families were too busy surviving to make a ritual out of one person's day. If your childhood taught you that birthdays are not important, then adulthood doesn't magically rewrite that script. In psychology, we call these schemas, mental frameworks your brain uses to interpret what events mean. If your schema is birthdays are a big deal, then not celebrating feels strange. If your schema is birthdays are just another day, then celebrating might feel strange. Neither one is automatically healthier. They are just different meaning systems. And meaning is everything here, because birthdays are not inherently meaningful. They are a social ritual. They become meaningful because we collectively agree they are. Humans are basically ritual machines. We mark time with ceremonies because time is terrifying. Think about it. Time just keeps moving. It doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't pause for your heartbreak. So we create little islands in the flow: holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, moments where we say, okay, everyone, stop, look, this matters. Birthdays are one of those islands, and some people don't want to land there. But there's also something else: autonomy. A lot of people who don't celebrate birthdays have a strong need to feel in control of their social world, not in a manipulative way, more like, I don't want to feel obligated. Because birthdays come with a whole ecosystem of obligation. You celebrate me, so I have to celebrate you. You buy me a gift, now I owe you something. You show up, now I have to host and clean and respond to texts and make everyone feel included and be grateful correctly. If you've ever felt like birthdays are a social debt cycle with frosting on top, congratulations, your brain has noticed the economy of relationships. Some people experience relationships as reciprocal and energizing. Others experience them as transactional and pressuring, especially if they grew up in environments where affection came with strings attached. If love felt conditional, like you had to earn it, then birthdays can feel like a stage where you're evaluated. Did enough people show up? Did the right people remember? Did you act happy enough? Did you respond right? It's a lot. So opting out can be a way of reclaiming autonomy. I don't want this day to control me. I don't want other people's expectations to decide my mood. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: attention. Some people don't celebrate because they genuinely don't like attention. Being the focus can feel exposing. Even if the attention is positive, it can still be uncomfortable. There's a concept in psychology called self-consciousness, which is basically how aware you are of yourself as a social object. People high in self-consciousness often feel like they are being watched or evaluated, even when no one is judging them. So imagine being that person, and suddenly everyone's singing to you and staring while you try to blow out candles with the correct amount of cuteness. It's like being put on trial. But the verdict is, we love you, and you still want to crawl into the floor. There's also something called impression management. That's a mental work of controlling how others see you. Birthdays demand impression management. You have to be delighted but not spoiled, grateful but not fake, casual but still appreciative. It's weirdly complex. And if you're someone who already spends a lot of time monitoring yourself socially, a birthday can feel like your brain running 12 tabs at once. So I don't celebrate can literally mean I don't want to spend my day managing everyone's perception of me. On the flip side, sometimes people don't celebrate because the day doesn't feel special anymore. If you've been burned out, depressed, or emotionally numb, your brain may struggle to access positive emotion even when something good happens. Depression can flatten reward processing. It's not that you're ungrateful. It's that the brain's ability to anticipate and feel pleasure gets muted. That's why celebrations can feel hollow. You look around and you know intellectually you should feel something, but emotionally it's like trying to start a car with no gas. And then there's a very practical possibility. Some people don't celebrate because they've learned it leads to disappointment. If you grew up with inconsistent care, you might have developed a strategy where you keep expectations low so you can't be hurt. Psychologists call this a defensive strategy. If you don't want anything, no one can fail you. If you don't plan anything, nothing can go wrong. If you tell everyone you don't care, then forgetting your birthday doesn't sting as much. But here's the twist. Sometimes that strategy works, until it doesn't. Because the need to be seen doesn't vanish. It just goes underground. And then you find yourself saying, I don't celebrate, while some small part of you still wonders who would remember if you did. If you relate to that, I want to say something gently. You're allowed to want things. Wanting doesn't make you needy. It makes you human. The goal isn't to force yourself into a giant party if you hate it. The goal is to be honest with yourself about what you actually need. And that brings us to a healthier reframe. Not celebrating birthdays doesn't have to mean rejecting joy. It can mean choosing a different kind of joy. Because celebration is not one size fits all. Some people want a crowd. Some people want quiet. Some people want a day off and a long walk and a meal they didn't have to cook. Some people want to donate to a cause. Some people want to spend the day alone without having to justify it. Some people want one person, just one, to truly see them, not 10 people singing at them. Your brain doesn't need a party. It needs meaning. And meaning is personal. Historically, birthdays weren't always celebrated the way we do now. In some places and times, birthdays were more about community rituals, religious rites, or rites of passage. The modern birthday industry, the gifts, the social media posts, the pressure to document happiness, adds a layer of performance that our ancestors didn't have. You didn't have to create a birthday aesthetic in ancient Rome. You just existed, maybe with a little bread. So if you don't celebrate, it might not be because you're cold or broken. It might be because your brain is quietly rejecting the modern script. Now, if you love birthdays, keep loving them. Seriously, joy is precious and we should defend it like it's the last slice of cake. But if you don't celebrate, or you feel weird about it, here's a perspective shift that can soften the whole topic. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me for not liking birthdays? Try asking, what does this day represent to my brain? Does it represent attention, obligation, aging, comparison, grief, disappointment, a need for control, a wish to be cared for without having to ask? Different answers lead to different kindness toward yourself. And if someone in your life doesn't celebrate, instead of assuming they're rejecting you, you can get curious. Not in an interrogating way. More like, hey, what's your ideal way to spend that day? Because maybe they'd love a quiet coffee. Maybe they'd love a simple text with no follow-up expectations. Maybe they'd love nothing at all, and that's also okay. The point isn't to force everyone into the same ritual. The point is to understand what the ritual is doing inside the mind. Because birthdays are, in a way, a mirror. They reflect how you relate to time, to attention, to love, to your own story. And if you don't like what you see in that mirror, you don't have to smash it. You can change the lighting. You can step back. You can choose a different mirror entirely. So whether you throw a party, avoid the whole thing, or quietly buy yourself sushi and call it a day, the deeper question is this. Are you living your life based on what actually nourishes you, or based on what you think you're supposed to want? Your brain is allowed to choose. If this hits something real for you, I'd love to hear it. Do you celebrate your birthday, avoid it, or do something in between? And if you're comfortable sharing, what do birthdays represent to you? Attention, love, pressure, time, something else entirely? Drop a comment. Reading those patterns across real people is honestly one of the most fascinating parts of this channel. And if you want more psychology explainers like this, where we take everyday behavior and reveal the deeper wiring underneath, consider subscribing. Because your mind is not random. It's a story. And the more you understand it, the more gently you can live inside it.